I want to share from Jeremiah chapter 48, verse 11. Jeremiah chapter 48, verse 11. Moab has been at ease since his youth. He has also been undisturbed like wine on its dregs. And he has not been emptied from vessel to vessel, nor has he gone into exile. Therefore, he retains his flavor, and his aroma has not changed. The Lord is saying here that Moab's flavor and aroma has not changed in many years. He also gives us the reason why Moab's flavor has not changed in many years. He says here that Moab has been at ease since his youth. He has not been disturbed. He has not been emptied from vessel to vessel. Emptying from vessel to vessel was a process used to purify wine. When the wine was made, they used to pour wine into a vessel. They would allow wine to remain in that vessel for some time, let's say 24 hours. During that 24 hours period, the unwanted particles in wine, also called dregs, they used to settle down at the bottom of the vessel. And after those 24 hours, people would take wine from the top of the vessel and they would pour into a vessel too. And when the wine went to a vessel too, it got rid of some of those unwanted particles and they would allow the wine to stay in vessel two for some more time, like another 24 hours. And some of those unwanted particles also used to settle down. So as the wine moved from one vessel to another vessel, it became a little more purer, leaving behind some of those unwanted particles. And as it got rid of those unwanted particles, the flavor and the aroma of wine changed. How does this apply to us? As Christians, we are called to be like Christ. The Lord wants us to have the fragrance of Christ coming out from our lives. When we are born again into the family of God, we are like this wine full of unwanted particles. There's so many sins within us. And in order to make us like Christ, the Lord needs to empty us from one vessel into another vessel. The Lord needs to take us from one trial to another trial. And when He takes us in this fashion, that is when we can become more like Christ. We can partake in the nature of Christ. So, my takeaway from this verse is that trials are necessary in Christian life. I can try to avoid them. I can hope secretly that I would never run into a problem. But this verse tells me that the Lord needs to empty me from vessel to vessel so that I can have the flavor and aroma of Christ. The second takeaway for me from this verse is that I can waste a trial. Imagine if when the wine is poured into a vessel and the wine doesn't rest, if it keeps moving all the time, what chance do these particles have of settling down in the vessel? All these particles that got settled down in the first 20 hours probably would show up again when the wine starts to shake at the 20th hour. So the most important thing for the wine to get rid of its particles is to stay stationary. It needs to be steady. That's the primary requirement. And when the Lord takes me through trials, many times I look back at the trials that the Lord has taken me through, and I've realized that I've complained so much, I've grumbled so much, I've doubted God's love so much. I wish that these trials go away. I wish that the trials didn't last longer as much as uh, they're lasting. And there's always been that shaking in the vessel. I've never been at rest. And because of that, the Lord hasn't been able to do the work that He wanted to do in my life. If only I remained steady, if only I remained uh, stationary and I believed in the Lord who is emptying me from vessel to vessel, if only I trusted my Heavenly Father who is allowing me to go through these trials to make me like Christ, I would have gotten rid of these sins faster than I it took time for me to get rid of these sins. And that's my takeaway, that I don't want to waste trials. When the Lord allows me to go through them, I want to submit under the mighty hand of the Lord. I want to embrace these trials, not wish that they go away, not wish that uh, they don't last as long as they're lasting right now. The measure in which I embrace these trials is the measure in which I become like Christ. That's it.